Okay, so let's get this started. 7 ways to raise self-awareness and better manage your mental health. I'm Terry Sidhu, and I'll be guiding you through some of my techniques to help my clients kind of raise their game when it comes to managing their lives and managing their own minds. So the key takeaways from this webinar, we're going to learn how to effectively evaluate and reflect, make mindful decisions. We're going to teach you how to raise your confidence, control breathing as well, introduce some meditation techniques. We're going to assess your identity. We're going to teach you how to self-assess and learn about your behaviors and your mindset. And we're going to try and deconstruct reality in this webinar as well. So we've got a lot to fit in. And then eventually I'm going to give you some techniques on how to plan your life. So nice to meet you. My name is Terry Sidhu. From the accent, you can probably tell I grew up in the UK. I was introduced to meditation by my mother, so mental health was definitely a thing I was interested in from a very young age. Just learning how the human mind operates and how we navigate through the world has been quite an interesting learning experience. So naturally, I was intrigued by psychology, the study of man or study of mind. And then I found myself getting bored with psychology and more fascinated by consumer behavior, kind of how the masses move around and operate. And then after studying marketing, I started work in the industry and became very unimpressed with life very quickly. You know, everyone was so anxious and so in a rush to become adults. And then when I became one, I was like, this is no fun. So it was time to change my life. So I ended up traveling around, moved to Canada, started a blog, and then somehow became a life coach. And here we are today where I'm hosting my first webinar for my new online course. So it's been an exciting journey, and I'm looking forward to sharing some of the techniques I've picked up and developed along the way. So the first technique I want to share with you is how to effectively evaluate and reflect. The easiest way to do this is to create 3 lists. The first list is a list of misery. So think about all the things that impact you negatively in life. So what restricts you from living your life blissfully? Anything that causes you misery is essentially restricting you from moving your life forward. It's a problem that has to be taken care of now, so it needs a solution. How do we come up with those solutions? Well, we need to identify all the problems first. And it can be as big and as small as you feel. For example, it could be just about getting up in the morning and going to work every day, or it could be the homelessness that you witness on your way to work. Really allow your identity to take over here. Anything that causes you misery, anything that impacts you negatively, put on this list of misery and highlight the things that are restricting you from living your life. The second mode, or the second list that I want you to create is a list of bliss. So the first list is everything that impacts you negatively and keeps you from living your life. The second is more personal. It's a list of bliss, the things that make life a blissful experience, the things that we want to do more of, the memories that we had that made us feel as if life was worth living. So let's create these 2 lists first, a list of misery and a list of bliss. So understand what's keeping you from living your life and understand what's encouraging you to live more of it. And then finally, this is the balancer, a list of gratitude. So when you feel as if there's nothing else left to hold on to, a list of gratitude. What's keeping you alive? What do you have left to live for? What do you appreciate in life? This is the list of the things literally that are keeping you alive. We need this list, and we need to be aware of this list, because when life feels like it's completely restrictive and there's a lot of misery, when the feels like there's very little bliss, very little to live for, this list of gratitude could be the one thing to kickstart your motivation and get your life going again. So really compartmentalize these key areas of your life: a list of misery, a list of bliss, and a list of gratitude. And I've also included a worksheet for this particular part as well. It's just a simple spreadsheet where you can print off and write down anything that you need to on these lists. It's available, it's in PDF form, just print it out and get started. And the action required once you've made these lists is start working on reducing misery, increasing bliss, and strengthening gratitude, in that order. Because once you've reduced a little bit of misery in your life, you can start working on actually engaging it and enjoying it. And then secondly, And thirdly, once you feel as if life is a worthwhile and happy experience, you're going to find more appreciation for it. So it's nice to be prepared to know what areas of life you want to build on. And doing it in this order will enable you to get control of your mental health and really kickstart your personal development. So reduce misery, increase bliss, and strengthen gratitude. That's the aim of the game here when it comes to planning your life and moving it forward. Okay, so mindful decision making. Assess all decisions by health. Ask yourself, is this healthy for me? This is the only thing you need to ask yourself when assessing any decision in life. If it's not healthy for you, don't do it. It's as simple as that. But it's not as always black and white though. I mean, I jumped on the entrepreneurial route and it's never been the most healthiest path, but in the long term, and you look at the bigger picture in terms of all the options I had, the entrepreneurial path was most healthy. And I assess all my decisions by these three key areas. So the first one is choose life. So is what I'm about to do or what I'm about to start good for my physical health? Is it good for me physically? This comes down to everything you eat through to everything you do. You know, even when you're going on vacation, the decisions you make, really think about your physical health and safety. It's quite shocking how little my clients, even some of my clients who don't understand this basic assessment when making decisions. Physical health is the most important thing in your life. It's the one thing that sustains you and allows you to enjoy the experience. So before making any decisions, the first thing you should assess is your life. Is this good for my physical health? Secondly, choose your mental health. So if it's okay for your physical health and you know it's not going to cause you any difficulty, your safety and security is intact, start thinking about your mental health, the impact on your mental well-being. Is this good for your mental well-being? The reason why we assess mental health second is because if it's not good for your physical health, it's definitely not good for your mental health. But some things that are probably good for your mental health are probably very detrimental to your physical health at some point too. So physical health is at the basis of keeping you alive. Your mental health is the next thing that's going to move your life forward. So that's why we make our decisions in this order. So physical life first, mental life, the metaphysical world, we take care of that next. Just like in yoga, listen to your body first and listen to your teacher second. Choose your life and your physical health first, and then allow your mental health to become the next priority, the next immediate priority. And once you decide that, okay, my physical health is going to be intact, my mental health is going to be intact, you've got things in place should things go wrong, contingencies and so on and so forth, then you start considering, is this good for my future? Is this going to bring me the emotional fulfillment I need? Because sometimes in the immediate response, like becoming an entrepreneur, and that decision is, for me anyway, caused me a lot of anxiety because I was like, whoa, I'm not going to get a regular paycheck. And so that for my mental health clearly was not going to be a motivating factor for me to go down that path. But after exploring the emotional fulfillment that I was going to get, it allowed me to keep my mental health on track. So it's kind of this thread you weave whenever you're making any decisions. And it's also encouraging you to focus on why you made that decision in the first place. So again, this is mindful decision making. Choose life, choose you, and then choose the emotional fulfillment. Really assess these areas before taking any route in life. And remember, always choose life. I can't stress this enough. Always, 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 always choose life. I know many individuals who have come back from the edge of that cliff, so to speak. The only thing you need to worry about in that moment is making the right choice. And that's why we choose physical health first. Always choose life. Okay, raising confidence then. So this is how you kickstart your personal development cycle, get you into that mode of actually wanting to better your life. Because sometimes you're not ready to face your truth. Sometimes you're not ready to kind of connect with the things that you've learned about yourself, and you're not ready to progress those things. You know, progress takes time. So where do we start then? I recommend starting with developing your confidence by exploring and heading down curiosity. And the easiest way to do it is to make a list of all the things you're curious about. So think of, even if you want to try sushi, let that be on the list. However extreme it is, and however mundane you may seem it is, just put it on this list. Because for you, if you're curious about it and you want to learn about it, it's something that can help you develop your confidence, but just by putting yourself out there and smashing through the fear. So make a list of all the things you're curious about in life or have a somewhat of an interest in. And then I want you to prioritize that list by least intimidating to most intimidating. So the first thing on that list should be the most easiest thing that you think you can push yourself to do. So this is now you're doing more of a fear assessment. So at the beginning, you did a self-assessment, trying to understand what your interests are, gauge your curiosities. The next step is to gauge your fear and understand what is it that you're going to feel comfortable doing. What's the immediate step outside of your comfort zone that you're going to be comfortable with? And then once you've made that list and prioritized it, start working from the top and start raising your confidence. This is where you get self-acceptance and action. This is how you mindfully grow. So even just by this third point now, you've learned so much more about how to better manage your health, better manage your mental health, and better manage your physical health, and really start developing a path forward and understanding that your mind is just a process of processes. It's a step-by-step process. You can understand your operation once you know what steps to take. And this is how we grow. We start small and we grow bigger and bigger and bigger each time. We raise our awareness that way. So I'm going to introduce a little bit of a meditation technique now. So let's break this webinar up, because I know there's a lot of information that I've just presented to you and there's a lot more coming, and I'm trying to keep it all within a condensed amount of time. So if everybody would close your eyes, and I'm going to teach you a breathing technique. So all I want you to do is, with control, take a deep inhale through the nose. So let's do it together. And at the top of inhalation, with a control, exhale completely through the nose. So let's try that again. Inhale deeply through the nose. At the top of inhalation, with control, exhale completely through the nose. So you keep practicing that until you feel clear-minded and realize the frequency of your controlled breath. Notice how just by me teaching you that technique, my energy has changed. I've slowed down. And this is something I wanted to introduce into this webinar somehow, the difference between getting control of breath. The first half of this webinar was speeding through, I was getting through it all, I was anxious, I just wanted to get to that point of flow. But all it took was a simple breathing technique to get me back on track. That's all you need to do when facing stress, when facing any anxiety, any fears, before you got to jump into that meeting, before you have to start networking, connecting with lots of individuals. Just breathe. That's all it takes. And learn your controlled breath as well, because it enables you to regain control in those most dire, most difficult, most stressful circumstances and moments. I do teach a free meditation course. It's just head to infinitelife.coach, and you'll get a link to the Ngomo web page where you can access the meditation content. I'll be teaching the controlled breath as well as the transcendental journey. All of that is completely free. Do try and meditate. That alone is a great way to better manage your mental health and increase self-awareness. So breathing, very, 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 very important. Please don't forget to breathe and get that controlled breath. Recognize your frequency. Whenever you're facing any panic or stress, just engage that controlled breath. Okay, number 5, assess your identity, the identity matrix. Now, I've constructed this using a lot of psychology, a lot of spiritual knowledge. So I'm hoping that today I get the point across and it makes sense for everybody. So apologize if I go too fast, and there is room for questions at the end, so please do make note of them. Excuse me. I'm going to have a sip of water now, though, because this is going to be an interesting one for a lot of people. This is the ultimate way to really assess your behaviors and assess your beliefs and see where you're at in terms of having a neutral and clear mindset. So the first thing you want to do is assess your belief system. And how we do that is we first explore the superconscious mindset. The superconscious mindset is an individual with more of an objective viewpoint, an objective lens in life. So when you're going about life, you notice you're kind of exploring it from a very outside view. You're looking at it from a point of objectivity. You're trying to understand what the human experience is all about, rather than engaging full force within it. You're a little bit stepped out of it and more observational. That's more the super conscious mindset, where you feel as if you're here to have an experience, but what is the experience all about? If you find yourself, your belief system or your mindset and how you think about life is more that way, then you're leaning more towards a super conscious mindset. On the other end of that spectrum is the subconscious mindset. This is where you basically accept everything about life and reality as you know it, and you continue to live through the motions. You rarely question it, you've understood it. What you've learned about life is what life is. Is that the way you operate? So assess your belief system. Where do you fall on this scale between the superconscious mindset and the subconscious mindset? Once you understand your belief system, you can start assessing your behavioral pattern. So just think, also, by the way, I've got a diagram available for you to download, so you can print it and start plotting where you think you fit on the identity matrix. So the second thing we want to do is assess your behavioral pattern. So we first look at the superego. What is the superego? Now think of the little devil and angel characters. The superego is the one that encourages you to focus on what you believe to be moral, what you believe to be responsible. And again, our beliefs all differ. So what we consider to be moral and respectful and what's right by the world differs from person to person. This is why it's always good to assess your mindset first. Where are your beliefs being derived from? What is your understanding of life coming from? Is it coming from a sense of inquiry, or is it coming from a sense of, well, this is what I've been told life is about, this is who I am? So that will then affect your behaviors. So are you an individual that does everything by the book, so to speak? You follow the rules that you were taught and essentially behaving the way you believe you should be behaving in the most moral and responsible way? Or are you on the other end of that spectrum, where you're motivated by inner desire, the id, which Freud wonderfully constructed for us? And the inner desire is all about going in for anything you desire, what you want, living carefree, without a care in the world, just going about life like a free spirit. So you can see the very difference in these behavioral extremes. Where do you lie on this scale? So assess your mindset, assess your behaviors, and you'll understand where you are in terms of your identity and how you behave. So remember, we're here to assess your identity and get you back to a centered consciousness, to get you consciously clear and in a neutral mindset, so that you can understand your potential and how to operate and navigate through this world and connect with all these different characters and meet them on their level of awareness. So you balance your identity, you learn from and operate toward the dormant side of your identity. So for example, if you're an individual who is motivated by the subconscious mindset, and your belief system is rooted in the subconscious mindset, and your behaviors are very much representative of inner desire. So basically, you've accepted what life is about based on what you've been taught, and what you've been taught sucks, so it's encouraging you just to do what the hell you want to do in life. Start learning from the other modes of operations. So start thinking more from a super conscious perspective and start reining in some of those behaviors and becoming more responsible. Think of this model a little bit like a scale, and kind of bringing yourself back towards that conscious center. So, if you're on the other end of that spectrum, where you're feeling as if you've done everything right, you've done everything perfectly, but it's still not working out, maybe give in to your inner desires a little bit to balance your identity out. Work your way towards conscious clarity, towards that centered state of consciousness, where you have that neutral mindset, where you can engage that controlled breath, where you have complete control of emotion, and you're able to move forward in life in a more balanced and more controlled manner. This is a lot of information. So like I said, please do take it with a pinch of salt. Really start and download that diagram that I've uploaded for you and start plotting your identity. Ask questions at the end. What I'm going to introduce to you a little bit later as well is the online course, and I'll be talking a little bit more about this model with that program too. Okay, this one's another heavy topic, so I'm going to try my best to explain it. So the 3 realms of consciousness. The best way I can explain this is with another exercise. So if everyone wouldn't mind closing their eyes again and start thinking of a lemon, just a regular lemon, and your understanding of that lemon is based on your waking state, or the first tier state of consciousness, where reality is shaped and interpreted by the physical senses. The reason why you can remember a lemon is because you've physically interacted with it. You've experienced it through your physical senses, what it tastes like, what it feels like, what it looks like. You know, all of these experiences have put a memory in your mind. So the first state of consciousness is reality shaped and interpreted by your physical senses. Now you're pulling that memory up of a lemon. So this is now pulling in on another realm of consciousness. So you're pulling that memory of a lemon from a unconscious state. You know, it just exists in memory. It's in your storage bank. So this is you now consciously engaging in two realms of consciousness. You have the first realm, which is the experience of the lemon. So you remember the lemon quite well because you experienced the reality of it through your physical senses. You pull the memory of the lemon up from a different state of consciousness because it's not in the waking state. You're not physically experiencing this lemon now. Now, while your eyes are closed and you're thinking about this lemon, I want you to transform it. Turn the lemon red, give it eyes, give it legs, give it a character, give it features, give it a whole world. You know, you can animate this lemon if you wanted to. Now you're operating in a realm of consciousness, which we call dream, or the altered conscious state. This is reality shaped or interpreted by creative abilities. This is the realm that encourages evolution and moves forward, about creative solution. You know, the world is full of many different problems. The only way we're going to come up with the solutions is by engaging more of that creative mindset, by looking at the stimulus of how we remember it and changing it using this other ability that we have. So now think about your traumas and the things that are holding you back. You know, you've experienced it in a waking or conscious state. You know, it exists in a death or unconscious state. So what's happening is your experience of reality is being dictated by a memory. So how do we change your experience of reality? Well, we've got this third realm of consciousness that we can play with. What outcome, think about that memory, look at it objectively. What outcome would you like for that memory? Do you want to end up and continue in this pit of despair, or do you want to change the outcome? Use this third state, this is probably a very dormant state in many people, to help you build a happier and more fulfilling life. One of the questions I get with my life coaching programs, or what a lot of the people who come to my come see me about my work, they're often not sure about which direction where to go. So we look at where they've been and what they're not happy with, and start exploring the best outcomes for those memories. And that's how we start triggering that whole idea of where you want to be in life. So we can experience it in the waking state. So you've got these three key realms of consciousness always working together, almost like working like knitting needles to help shape reality. Imagine if you could get control of a specific one of those realms of consciousness to enable you to create a better world for yourself. So use the tools that you have already with you. You don't need to obtain anything new necessarily to kickstart your personal development. So three realms of consciousness. So, and again, think about what state you can engage to help you solve a problem and or navigate through life blissfully. And you can open your eyes, by the way, if you still have your eyes closed. I just wanted to do that as an example. So yeah, think about what state of consciousness you can engage to help you navigate through any problems and how to live your life blissfully. And if you're dealing with a problem right now in your life, you know, think about what memories you have when you've dealt with that problem before and recreate new solutions. Think about when you're studying, when as entrepreneurs, professionals, all the things that you have to deal with in your life, you can create solutions very easily and very quickly just by stimulating different ways you operate. Okay, and finally, planning your life. So this is probably once you've got yourself to a point of awareness of how you operate and understand how you work, and you're making better decisions, and you're understanding what causes you misery, what's bringing you bliss, and the things you're grateful for, it's time to build that forward into a life plan. And having a life plan, it's kind of like having a marketing plan for your life. So you can prepare and plan and reduce a lot of anxiety just knowing what your next step is going to be. You don't have to follow a life plan exactly, but having something outlined is like having a framework to build around. I teach my meditation the same way. I provide an education so that then students can build a practice around the framework. So that's what essentially a life plan is about. It's not something that you are setting in stone. It's something to help guide you and motivate you and to keep you focused. And the best way to build a life plan is, again, by reducing misery, increasing bliss, and strengthening gratitude. So those tools I've given you already. So start working on developing those lists so you understand what it is you want from life. I'm just going to quickly go over the Dream Life Design course for you, just so you can understand how we essentially construct this life plan. And the course has a step-by-step guide, so it'll help you mindfully grow, and you can watch the videos back so you can understand how to build your life plan. So the model is in two phases. The first phase is designed to help you unlock your potential, help you understand who you are, help you self-reflect and evaluate, and help you move your life forward in the direction that you want to define for yourself. So what we start is we explore your identity and who you are. There's a few techniques that I bring in. The identity matrix is a new one that I've introduced just for this webinar, but there's other ways that you can start exploring who you are as an individual. And then we start looking at self-evaluation and reflection. This is now those lists of misery, bliss, and gratitude that I introduced at the beginning of this webinar. And then once we understand your misery, bliss, and gratitude, we look at your aspirations. So I transport your mind to a place where you're living now without misery. Imagine life with no misery in your life, that whole list that you've just created. Imagine what life would be like and what you could do with your time and energy when you don't have these things causing you misery, when you don't have these restrictions. What are your social aspirations? You know, if you've overcome all of this misery in your life, you are now experienced. You now have value to support others, to help them overcome the same level of misery, the same problems that you did. You know, if you found solutions, share them. So these become now your social aspirations. So we define them very early on. And then your economic aspirations are derived from, well, what resources do you need in order to continue growing and living a blissful life? And we call them economic aspirations because in the world we live in right now, yes, unfortunately, money is a factor. However, not always. This is why it's a personal life plan. You know, they're your economic aspirations. You may not need much. It may seem like you need a lot, but you may not need so much when you identify what brings you bliss. And then we look at gratitude, and then they filter into your personal aspirations and help us define what it is you want. What's your culture? If your name was its own culture, what would it represent? Who would be in your life? What things in your future are going to still be around and that you want to build or you want to strengthen in order to keep you alive when life is going in a blissful and happier state? Because you can fall from grace, so to speak, any moment in your life. You can fall from a healthy mindset at any point. It just takes a new experience that you wasn't prepared for to do that. So you still need to make sure that you're mindful of things you're grateful for and that you're working to strengthen them throughout your life. So this is why we compartmentalize your identity into three key areas of operation: misery, bliss, and gratitude. And we identify your dream life into these three key areas of operation, with social, economic, and personal aspirations. Like I said, this is a lot, but the step-by-step program goes through this in a lot more detail. And then we establish changes and life missions. So once we understand where you are now and where you want to be, we start looking at where you need to be right now. Where is it exactly you need to be in order to start building this dream life? So we look at 2 changes to significantly reduce misery, 2 changes to significantly increase bliss, and 2 changes to significantly strengthen gratitude. And then the results of those changes become your life missions. So the aspirations are the dream life. That's the ultimate dream. But what we're trying to break down is and understand is your minimum level of fulfillment. What's more realistic? What's the new platform or the new base that we need to work from in order to build this dream life? And these are your life missions, the results of the changes you need to implement in your life. Changes derived from understanding what you need to do to reduce misery, increase bliss, and strengthen gratitude. And then finally, we set goals to achieve these life missions. So we break it down into more mindful, more digestible steps. So each life mission, I've just suggested set 2 goals for each one, and then how to achieve those goals. Well, we have the objectives to help us do that. What research we need to accumulate, what mindset, what thing do we need to adopt, what do we need to focus on, and what actions do we need to take to help us achieve our goals. So it's really about breaking the bigger picture down into mindful, bite-sized steps that you can handle, that you can fit in while working a 9 to 5, that you can focus on and grow while dealing with kids and responsibilities. It's all about understanding who you are. You'll notice at the very bottom, that's where we start with your identity. And then we move on to the second phase, which is scaling your dream life. So once you've achieved those life missions, the results of the changes you implemented, we go into these series of goals: immediate, intermediate, and ultimate goals, until you eventually build up towards those aspirations that work together to build your dream life. So the course itself includes a step-by-step instructional video. So you'll get step-by-step guide on how to grow all of that. Homework tasks and worksheets are provided. Example worksheets to help you learn. I offer a printable life planning poster, because I know a lot of my younger students, they like to summarize a lot of their life plan. You have 1-year access to live community Q&A webinars with myself and any coaches I train. So if you need more advice, more guidance, more motivation, you have burning questions you want to learn from other students, these webinars are going to be a great resource. And then there's also discounted online coaching sessions available too. So with myself or any of the coaches I train, you'll be able to access discounted sessions exclusively as a student of Dream Life Design. And then you get access to all this other exclusive content that I've developed too. Everything from what motivates you, how you influence, how to strengthen your identity, the art of decision making again, which we'll go into a little bit more depth with, how to navigate through life, facing truth, staying focused and triggering motivation, meditation advice, why you matter, dancing with negativity, dealing with isolation and loneliness, and insight into self-realization and the spiritual journey. So once you've completed this whole life plan, we start peeking into, well, what comes after life once you've achieved this beautiful dream or this beautiful picturesque life that we built for ourselves based on these emotional centers that we carry with us. Well, we give you a little bit of insight to that, and like I said, the meditation course is free if that's where you want to start. Now, all of this for online one-on-one coaching comes to just over $4,500. The online course is usually $597, but as members of this wonderful webinar, and my mission being to make life coaching services more accessible, I've been working with Ngomu to help put this webinar together. They've been a great support, and so I've been able to offer 50% off with this webinar as an online exclusive and a way to introduce the course to new markets, and again, to make the services that I offer one-on-one more accessible to individuals all over the world. So it's a very exciting moment with my company, and I'm so happy to be able to share this with you. Let's quickly summarize what we went through. So the key takeaways then, what have we learned? We've learned how to effectively evaluate and reflect. It starts as simple as making 3 key lists. What restricts you from life, your list of misery. What makes life a worthwhile experience, that list of bliss. Make sure that list is very personal. And a gratitude list, you know, what keeps you alive. You need to be aware of these things so you can stay balanced and focused and in control. You know where to turn to in order to restore yourself. We learn how to make more mindful decisions. You know, assess health first. Remember, always choose life. Start there. Physical health, then assess your mental health, then assess the emotional fulfillment. Are you going to get emotional fulfillment from continuing on the path that you're on? Raise confidence. Delve into curiosity. It's as simple as that. Start engaging your interests. Make a list of all the things that you want to explore and experience in life, and start prioritizing them by fear. What's the easiest to kind of do to step out, the easiest thing to do to step out your comfort zone, and then start attacking one thing after another and build your confidence in a more mindful and more safe manner. Control your breathing. Remember the difference between the beginning of this webinar and halfway through after I was breathing. You know, get control of that breath. That's all it takes. One deep inhale, one deep exhale sometimes is just enough. Get to know your frequency of breath. Get to know your rate of breathing. That's going to keep you in a clear, controlled, and safe mindset. assess your identity. Remember to print that diagram and start assessing where your belief is at. Are you a person with more of an objective lens in life, or you're living more subjectively? You've accepted what life is about, and then start assessing those behaviors. Deconstruct reality. Remember the exercise we did with the lemon. We've done a lot in just this short amount of time. Remember, you have these 3 key realms of consciousness to help you work out solutions and move your life forward. So use them, utilize them, engage them, train them. There's a lot you can do just by living your life and enjoying or learning how to fulfill your senses and engage a better experience. And then finally, once you've raised your self-awareness and you feel as if you've got a little bit of control, start planning your life, start deciding the direction that you need to go in. Remember, you're not building a life plan that's set in stone. It's designed to be as fluid as all of our identities. So allow yourself to start constructing some sort of path forward to kind of externalize some of that thinking, and allow yourself to give yourself focus and some sort of framework on how to make all of this thing called life work out in a way that's happier and healthier and easier to do. And lifeplanningcourses.com, remember, you've got 50% off for the next 24 hours as participants of this webinar. Thank you. Thank you for joining me, and hopefully we'll reconnect again very soon. Take care.